Hey guys, welcome back. It's Daryl, Aviator 267.
And Melanie, Aviator Wifey 267.
This is the third video on our BlackShape series, following up the registration of the last video. But we'd like to say thanks very much as well, because last week we just passed 100 subscribers. Also a special shout out to Emily Beacom. She was a 100th subscriber. Check out her YouTube channel. She's got a very important message to share with you. So following up from the last video and the comments that you guys have shared with us, we really appreciate your feedback, and we promised you a general walk around on the aircraft. We're going to focus on a few specific things: the engine install, for example, the avionics, the flap system, and of course many of you asked about the baggage capacity, the baggage space. So we'll show you what we keep in our baggage compartment, where it is, and give you a general idea of what you can keep in there. So stick with us as we take a walk around the BlackShape Prime. To our subscribers who also follow Trent Palmer and his KitFox, you noticed that last week he just uploaded a video showing the latest upgrade to his KitFox, being a 3-bladed MT propeller system replacing his old blades. Now, on the BlackShape Prime, we come standard with a twin MT blade system. These German-made carbon fiber blades with nickel edges guarantee you the best overall performance of any blade system that I've flown on light sport aircraft. And just like Trent Palmer's video, his comments are very clear. This is a very smooth blade system to install on your light sport aircraft. And in fact, you can see these blades on TBMs now and the King Air 200 350 series. Our propeller blade system is controlled hydraulically through a hydraulic governor and a propeller lever, as opposed to the more modern installations which use electronic governors controlled through a preset switch for your different performance profiles, and they'll set the blade angle electronically for either your climb, your cruise, or your takeoff position. Now, I've spoken to BlackShape about this, and their decision was deliberate to have hydraulically controlled propellers. This aircraft is a pilot's aircraft, and it loves to be flown by hand, and I can assure you that that's the best way to fly the BlackShape. Guys, what we have installed here is the very reliable Rotax. These are the green valve covers, signifying the ULS normal aspirated version, 100 horsepower at maximum 5,800 RPM. We chose this engine because we have enough power here at 5,000 feet density altitude. We've probably reduced to about 80 horsepower on takeoff, which is more than enough for 600 kg all up weight. You can get the option of having the 914, the turbo version. There are no Rotax, there are no BlackShapes running the 915 that we know of yet. Then of course Thomas from Edge Performance has got his 145 horsepower, I believe, bolt-on kits available if you want to fit that on your Rotax, if you want to fit that on your BlackShape. Guys, welcome back. We just moved the aircraft into the hangar. There's a bit of wind outside and we're picking it up through the dead cat microphone, even though we have the dead cat on. We're getting quite a bit of noise interference. We're going to have a look at the engine and show you how to remove the cowling. It's in two halves: the lower half, which is always fixed to the airframe, and the top half, which is removable so you can get access to the engine itself. As per the Italian philosophy in design, very sleek. There are no access panels, no openings except for the air intake scoop on the top of the cowling. And the only way you can remove this top half or top cowling is by releasing the catches on either side of the nose. And we're going to take a look at that right now and show you how to remove the cowling and the engine installed, and talk about the options available. So Melanie is going to show us how we normally remove the cowling. You go around to the front of the aircraft, make sure your propellers are horizontal, push the clips, they'll pop out halfway, and you remove the rest of the way. Give it a good squeeze on the top, and then lift the rear half up. Right guys, here we are at the business end. Installed on our particular BlackShape Prime is the Rotax 912 ULS version 3. For us, this engine has a lot of power, more power than we need here. It's delivering 100 horsepower at 5,800 RPM. And of course you can get the other options, which is the Rotax 914 turbocharged version, 110 horsepower. Currently there are no BlackShape Prime installed with the Rotax 915, and a bit too expensive for us unless Rotax offers to give us one to be the first 915 installed in the BlackShape Prime, like somebody flying a Kit Fox 915 I know of. So Mo from our Rotax dealership in the region, if you're prepared to give us a 915 to install, we'll be prepared to work that out. Okay, so what do we have here, guys? For those of you who don't know the Rotax platform, 4 cylinders horizontally opposed, the unique combination of water cooling here with the reservoir in the back, as well as air cooling for the cylinders. So the cylinder heads water cooled and the cylinders are air cooled. We got a reduction gearbox, which is taking the 5,800 RPM from the engine down to the manageable speed of 2,200, 2,500 for the props, to give us what we need. On our props we've got the twin empty blades, and they have the governor, which is hydraulic. What else? Dual carbs, electronic ignition, A and B with the backups, and the oil tank in the rear with a dry sump of 3 liters. Right, let's have a look at the flaps. On the aircraft we've got electrically driven flaps on the 12-volt system. They run through a controller on the flight deck, on the cockpit, with 4 positions: flaps retracted, flaps at 10 degrees, flaps at 20 degrees, and full flap at 30 degrees. Those positions are all preset through the controller in the auto position, and also when we revert to manual, then we can set them at any intermediate position that we wish. So Melanie is going to turn on the battery, and while the aircraft is powering up, we'll just give it a second. Once the master is on, we have full control of the flaps through the control box. So in the flight deck, as I will point out, Melanie will show you the flap controller module called Flybox. As we mentioned, on the left-hand side of the controller is the auto position, where it is always in auto and it's a guarded position. So when you want to switch it to the manual position, you have to lift up the switch and put it down into the manual position. There's a green LED which indicates the position of the current position of the flap, and on the right-hand side of the control box is the selection lever. So temporarily in the auto position, temporarily switching it to either up or down will take the flap to its preset position. So in this case, we have flaps retracted. The green LED showing us flaps in a 0 or retracted position. Melanie will just momentarily select down on the lever and the flaps will transition to down. There we are in 10 degrees. She will make another action on the lever. It will go to a 20 degree position. And finally, another action will take you to the third or 30 degree position. Alright, now that's in the auto position. If she goes to the manual position on the guarded switch, so she'll move now to manual, she will have to move the selection lever into the up position, and then whenever she stops, the flaps will stop traveling. There we go. Now you'll notice that on the panel, they will tell you more or less what position the flap is in. So in this case, it's indicating flaps at 20 degrees. As we say, that's manual reversion. Most of the time it's in auto, so she'll switch it back to auto. Take us down to full flap. Flap down, full flaps. Just to talk about the flaps for a second. These are very unique flaps, as you can tell from the wing. The wing is a very sleek design, and that's why we're able to reach cruise speeds of 130 knots. But with this wing and this flap, we can actually fly as slow as 55 knots, and the actual aircraft will stall a VSO speed in 45 knots. And that's because we have double slotted flaps at 30 degrees. So for those of you who want to know a bit more about that, the flap itself has a slot at the leading edge of the flap, which allows air to pass under the wing and re-energize the boundary layer. It has an additional slot a little bit way back from leading edge, which allows more air to pass below the first knot. And that allows us to have an approach speed or stall speed of 45 knots in the full landing configuration. You can retract this up to 0. Right, so that's the flap system. While Melanie has the battery on, we can have a look at the flight deck and show you what's installed on the aircraft. Alright guys, as we said, we'll take a look at the flight deck. I hope you can see what we're looking at here. We've got our DineOn SkyView Touch, that's a 10-inch touch screen, and along with the DineOn autopilot, as well as the dedicated altitude barometer, heading and track knobs, additional options. On the right hand side we've got the intercom and the DineOn radio. On the top we've got the standby combination artificial horizon and compass from AvMap, and as we've just shown you, the fly box that controls the flap positions. Down in the bottom we've got the fuel selector on right, left and both, as well as off. And on the right hand side we've got the battery master, the alternator, as well as the Avionics master, fuel pump, nav lights, strobes and taxi lights. Down by Melanie's right hand leg she'll point out to you all the circuit breakers that control the various avionic components. The BlackShape's control stick is also in the center, and on that we've got autopilot disconnect, as well as trim nose up and trim nose down features. Interesting thing we'd like to show you about the DineOn is that when you have installed the map mode, which will go to map, full map, north up, we'll zoom in to where we are right now. As you can see, that's Botswana. We'll zoom in right now and you can see that our database is expired and we haven't renewed the subscription. So because of that, there are no airports, no terrain features, no navigation features such as NDBs or VORs, or even airports. Now to get that updated, you have to subscribe to DineOn. Now we're going to do that, but we haven't gotten around to doing that. So in the meantime, we've got a workaround, or a small hack if you wish. With our iPad, we've installed the DineOn Wi-Fi setup on our network. So right now, when we go to our ForeFlight app, and we can set in a flight plan, for example, our home base of FBSK, and let's say we want to go to the VOR Golf Bravo Victor and then fly all the way to our neighboring airport, Francistown. We have the route on ForeFlight. So that's our route. And obviously, yes, we can navigate with the use of our iPad, but because we have the Wi-Fi network, we can actually send the flight plan to our aircraft. We'll turn on the avionics switch. Yep. We'll power up the avionics. Select the Wi-Fi SkyView Bravo Sierra 100. And now we have the option to send the flight plan to the aircraft panel. So we'll click send and we can watch as our flight plan magically appears And now we have all the features that we wish: map, nearest to, direct to, flight plan, all activated. Of course, anytime we wish to change the flight plan, we'll simply go back to ForeFlight, add another waypoint such as FB Mike November, enter, update the flight plan again, and the route is added. So this is a little quick overview of the avionics we've got in the front. Of course, in the rear seat as well, we'll give you a shot of what's going on there. But that's typically our setup on the flight deck. Alright guys, welcome in to the rear seat of the BlackShape Prime. In the rear seat we've got installed the DineOn SkyView 7-inch, mimicking exactly what we can see in the front seat. And just so you can see, this is the view open up the canopy. So as we mentioned, in the rear pilot or instructor or the rear seat operator has a 7-inch touchscreen. We also have a control panel which allows us to control the gear retraction from the rear as well as the flaps. And we can show you how that works right now. It requires a key which is isolated to the pilot side, and we'll show you how that works as well. We've got the throttle quadrant with the throttle, propeller and brake, and the same setup in the front seat. There's your gear with your 3 greens, the red and blue being the choke, the carb heat, and across on the right hand side, as we mentioned, avionics master, alternator, battery master, fuel pump, nav lights, strobes and taxi lights. The rear seat, we also have control for the rear pilot as well as there's the front. Headphone jacks, 12-volt cigarette lighter, ballistic parachute. Activated from both front or rear seat. Okay, we mentioned that you could control the flaps and the gear from the rear seat. It requires a key to override the pilot. We'll give you a demonstration of that. Keys in the ignition. It's over to co-pilot control. Obviously we won't activate the gear, but we'll give you an idea of the flaps. We can select the flaps to the down position or to the up position. Of course, they're not preset like the control box in the front. We're using manual reversion in the rear. But that gives you an idea that the co-pilot at least can extend the gear and extend or retract the flaps, as well as has full control of the aircraft from the rear. Alright guys, let's talk about the gear. Very unique to this aircraft is obviously its retractable gear, and like any retractable aircraft you have the gear selection levers, which is here with your standard 3 greens, right nose, left gear, 3 greens indicating down and locked, and we also have a warning light as well as a test light. So the test light will allow us to test the function of the gear. Give it a push, and you should be able to test all the functions. Now, for any other reason, if the gear is not in either locked fully down or fully up position, you will get a warning. If there is no power to the gear retraction system, you will also get a warning. So for example, if you pull a circuit breaker, you should get a warning that there's no power to the gear. Just as an update, the gear is electrically driven, it's not hydraulic, so it's running off the 12-volt battery. Let's have a look at the gear. As mentioned, guys, the BlackShape Prime and the series of BlackShape aircraft all feature retractable gear in your standard tricycle undercarriage. Maximum speed for lowering the gear, VLO, is 80 knots. And obviously that's monitored through the DineOn system as well. So if you extend the gear above 90 knots, it will tell you that you're exceeding the gear speed, extension speed. As we showed you in the front, the gear is controlled with the gear control lever, which is running off a 12-volt battery system, and the gear system is electrically actuated through some screw jacks, 3 screw jacks, 1 for each wheel. They also have a free fall assist, so by pulling a lever in the cockpit, you will disengage the screw jack and the gear should free fall assist to the down position. Something we really like about this gear, which I can show you on the right hand side very clearly, is that this is a trailing link system, which is very smooth on landings because of the added assistance in absorbing the vertical component through the trailing link. And we're using the Behringer brakes and wheel system. Alright, now for the most anticipated part, the most frequently asked question: where do you keep the baggage and how much baggage space is there? Now guys, every aircraft has its pros and its cons. We particularly chose this aircraft for quite a few reasons, and that's our mission was a tourer. The aircraft is capable of touring at 130 knots, 145 knots, with 5 hours endurance. We've got quite a bit of range to go on this aircraft with 100-liter tanks. And we travel light. All her baggage. Okay, so Melanie is going to show us where the baggage compartment is. It is in the rear of the aircraft, behind the pilot seat, or the co-pilot seat. You remove the headrest. And you have access to the baggage compartment. Now I'm going to show you what's in there with the flash and the phone, just so you can see the space available in here. Now what we have in here, guys, Melly's going to pull it out, is your standard first aid kit. So there's our first aid kit. And our flight bag for the aircraft. Let's give it a turn around there and show how big it is. So this is your standard Jeppesen flight bag kit, and now we can show you that, as you can see, 20 kgs maximum, or 44 pounds is in the rear, and pretty good size volume. In fact, guys, when we travel, we have the flight bag kit and probably a bag a little bit similar to this to carry the camera gear. So you can carry quite a bit in here. Let's just show us what's in the flight bag kit. We've got handheld radio. Okay. backup GPS, some sunshade, a bulletproof vest for ramp safety, some chamois for wiping the canopy down, flying gloves, canopy cover, torch, and our 2 headsets that go with the aircraft. Now of course, when you're flying, this is not in the baggage compartment, so you've got the extra space if you need it. But we're carrying 2 Bose A20s in here, and like I say, you can easily have these in the cockpit when you're flying, or stored in the cockpit, and fill the bag with whatever else you want. So guys, that's the baggage space. It's mission specific. If you're just doing a quick tour and you're going out on business for 2-3 days, this is definitely enough what we carry and what we need.
Hey guys, we've come to the end of our video. Hopefully we've answered all your questions. If not, do drop us a line. We'd also like to thank all our followers and future followers. Yeah, Aviator.
Thanks guys, like Melanie is saying, we really appreciate all your support. We've just passed 100 subscribers. Our second video on the BlackShape Prime, or rather our first video on the BlackShape Prime, passed 3,500 views. The second video is well on its way to 1,000. As she's mentioned, if we have left anything out, just let us know what more you'd like us to cover. But from here on in, we should have a lot more flying videos. Maybe we'll go flying right now.
Yeah, why not?
So guys, remember those standard SOPs: like, share, subscribe, comment, select the notification bell, get updates when we're posting, and let us know what you think. Aviator 267, Aviator Wifey 267. We appreciate it.